Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one. In today's video, I'm taking you to the Ultra League, where a trainer is absolutely flexing on us with a team that is triple Shadow Shiny Kanto starters. That's Blastoise, that's Charizard, and that's Venusaur. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community named Mr. Algorithm. That's surely not going to spawn any debate in the comment section whatsoever, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now it goes without saying, this is a team for fun, do not use this team for climbing, but the battles with Triple Shadow Shiny are about to be epic. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, Shadow Shiny Venusaur stares down the destroyer of fun. It's Ultra League Zygarde. Zygarde trying to get to the outrage, but cannot get there before Venusaur will connect with a hard-hitting Frenzy Plant. Venusaur continues the farm, good overfarm from the Zygarde. Will they actually go for the outrage? Venusaur says no, calling the crunch bait, and now Venusaur, can Frenzy Plant actually pick up a knockout here? Frenzy Plant into the Zygarde does get the shield, out comes the Shadow Shiny Blastoise. Blastoise does get the rollout through, a no shield from the Blastoise, it's actually an Earthquake that connects and does some pretty massive damage, and now out comes Armored Mewtwo. The opponent so far running one of the bulkiest teams that I've ever seen. This Blastoise is an interesting moveset. It is not running the typical Skull Bash, but rather it is running Ice Beam, maybe to try and help out against these Zygardes. The perfect overfarm from Armored Mewtwo means Blastoise is going to get knocked out, but now in comes Shadow Shiny Charizard. This Charizard is opting for Dragon Breath over Ember for a little bit of extra fast move pressure, and that fast move pressure will set up the farm down of the Armored Mewtwo. In the back is Togekiss, and this Charizard is about to go off. Back-to-back Blast Burns locked and loaded. Blast Burn number 1 is going to connect. Devastating damage onto the Togekiss on the Charge Attack priority tie. That's going to be the Psyshock forcing the shield. Charizard farming up to the back-to-back Air Cutters. Air Cutter will easily pick up the knockout. Togekiss puts up the shield. Opponent does not get the catch they so desperately needed, and instead they're just getting knocked out. Back in comes the Zygarde, and Zygarde against the triple Kanto starter Shadow Shiny team will not take the win, and that's a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Shadow Venusaur into Shadow Steelix. Opponent safe switches into Giratina, and this is a massive problem for this team. Out comes the Shadow Shiny Blastoise. Blastoise presumably has Ice Beam for this exact matchup. The Giratina ends up baiting with the Shadow Sneak. They did not full send to the Dragon Claw. And for Blastoise, landing this Ice Beam is critical because, man, this team is very soft to Giratina. Giratina goes for another Shadow Sneak. Blastoise not wanting to risk a Hydro Cannon, missing the knockout, instead wanting to guarantee the knockout with the Ice Beam, but the opponent has other ideas. They put up the shield. They were worried that Blastoise would make a final move, so they go for another Shadow Sneak. In comes Charizard. Charizard looking for the Dragon Breath. Farm down, and unfortunately it falls just short. Giratina is going to make it to the Dragon Claw. The Dragon Breath after will get the farm down. Back in comes the Steelix. Charizard so close to the back-to-back Blast Burn. Steelix is not going to like what happens next. Blast Burn connects, picking up the one shot. In the back is Confusion Cresselia. Cresselia will take big damage from the Blast Burn, and now Venusaur will re-enter the field of play. Venusaur is taking big damage from the Confusions, but at this point, it's all about whatever damage can be done to this Cresselia. Cresselia probably not on Future Sight. They should be on Moonblast Grass Knot, and Moonblast is not going to be enough to take the knockout. Venusaur just getting the fast move damage. A couple Dragon Breaths from Charizard will take the farm down and take the win. Same leads in the next match, Venusaur into Steelix, but this is actually a Dragon Tail Steelix. Even though Dragon Tail was the move, they got the big rework. Steelix, more often than not, will typically stay with the Thunderfang. Dragon Tail Steelix has farmed up quite a bit of energy. Venusaur gonna be no shielding, and that is going to be a super effective Psychic Fangs. Unfortunately for Venusaur, with the defense drop from the first Psychic Fangs, the second Psychic Fangs will be able to pick up the knockout, and there is no fast move pressure into the Steelix. This already means this is going to be an exceedingly difficult game to win. In comes the Blastoise. Blastoise hit with the Psychic Fangs. Blastoise already taking quite a lot of damage. Blastoise can take the knockout with the Hydro Cannon. Does the opponent decide to put up the shield? No, they let the Steelix go. Out comes a Swampert, and a bad situation gets even worse. Blastoise is already debuffed. Hydro Cannon does get the shield. Swampert farming up a ton of energy. Swampert, are they on Earthquake? They did farm up to it. It's going to be the Sludge. Sludge barely misses the knockout. Blastoise barely hangs on as it makes a final Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon lands. In comes Charizard. Dragon Breath's adding up, but before the Air Cutter is ready, the Hydro Cannon is going to get the shield back. Charizard will have to throw pretty immediately if it wants to try and pressure a knockout. So Charizard does just that. Air Cutter lands, picking up the knockout. In the back is a Shadow Zapdos. The opponent breaking out the Spice. Charizard baiting, hoping against hope that this is the win con. Air Cutter does get the shield. And now does the Zapdos have the back-to-back moves? This is going to be a very close endgame. The Drill Peck and the catch onto the Blastoise. They had the double up, but the catch onto the 1 HP Blastoise means back in comes the Charizard. Opponent knows there's a Blast Burn in Zapdos' future, and they will resign the match. Hopping into the next match, picking up a bit of an interesting lead. Shadow Venusaur into Shadow Golurk. Ipana safe switches into Togekiss. Honestly, I feel like Golurk could have probably stayed in and played that out, but with an aggressive pivot out, Blastoise is more than happy to answer the Togekiss. Blastoise, unfortunately, was a little bit slow on the counter swap. Aura Sphere will barely miss that knockout, but the Blastoise has lost almost its entire health bar. Hydro Cannon is shielded. Blastoise would love to get another Hydro Cannon, but unfortunately, it cannot get there, and back in comes the Venusaur. Venusaur really has to hope they don't have Psyshock. Venusaur, no shields, thankfully, just the Aura Sphere. This is a super effective Sludge. Can Togekiss hang on? It's a Shadow Sludge. They cannot. And now it's all up to Charizard. In comes the Golurk. Golurk staying in. And that is hopefully a good sign, although the Mud Slaps are really starting to add up on the Charizard. Charizard looking to overfarm a ton of energy. Not gonna bait. A bait feels like the lose con. Gonna full send a Blast Burn. Golurk no shields. In the back, it's Empoleon, and Empoleon has absolutely no fast move pressure here. That is really good for the Charizard, as Charizard just needs to double up. Opponent went for a Drill Peck, but honestly, either move would be enough to knock out, as the Charizard is very, very low. Charizard switches into the Venusaur, getting the catch. That is a very nice catch. Opponent is going to undercharge and go for farm. They get 3 Metal Sounds, but that is not enough. Charizard going to get to this Blast Burn, and that's going to be good night Empoleon, as Blast Burn is devastating even in neutral scenarios. The next match is off to a very rough start, leading Venusaur into the Tinkaton. The Blastoise save switch is answered with a Thundershock Belly Bolt, and a bad situation gets even worse. If there's a saving grace, it's going to be the shield advantage. Belly Bolt puts up the shield, and Thundershock does not hit very hard into Blastoise. Blastoise gets to the Hydro Cannon. Opponent is never going to be double shielding. Instead, they're going to look for farm. Can Blastoise hang on? And it does. Blastoise with the high HP stat, according to its stats on the left, making one final Hydro Cannon. In comes Venusaur. Venusaur always going to be no shielding, because Venusaur can't really do anything into the Tinkaton. There's the Parabolic Charge. Opponent trying to buff up their defense, and it pays off as they're able to make a last-second charge attack. There's the Zap Cannon. That's big damage, and in comes the Charizard. Charizard going to be met with a Shadow Dustnoir. It's actually a Hex Dustnoir. Normally, Dustnoir is going to be on Astonish, and Hex does have a lot better energy generation, but it does mean they don't nearly have the fast move pressure that they would if they were running Astonish. The Air Cutter, oh no, it gets the shield and it gets the boost, and this game is over, as now Charizard can just go straight Blast Burn. Opponent switches into the Tinkaton, hoping to catch an Air Cutter, but unfortunately, all they're catching is Charizard's hands. Back-to-back Blast Burns locked and loaded. Down goes Tinkaton. Back in comes the Dustnoir. Opponent knows what's happening. They cannot stop it. Shadow Shiny Charizard takes the win. Picking up a very tricky lead in the next match, Venusaur into Komo-o. Komo-o firing off the clanging scales instantly. There it is. Venusaur gets rocked. Oh no, and then the Venusaur tried to sludge the Komo-o, but the opponent makes a sludge catch onto Corviknight, and that takes a bad situation to an even worse one. In comes the Blastoise. Opponent with a pretty big misplay, throwing on alignment, giving an entire free rollout to the Blastoise. Blastoise loves the free energy, as it will help it catch back up after that catastrophic catch. This can only be an air cutter. Shadow Blastoise will be able to withstand that damage, and Blastoise can now look to double up on Hydro Cannons. So the opponent can't really afford to shield, because if they do, they have to double shield. So Corviknight just gets KO'd. In comes Komo-o, gonna be answered with the Charizard. Charizard able to outpace, getting to this air cutter. Air cutter, no shielded by the Komo-o, and there is the air cutter boost. How well do you know Komo-o counts? I don't really know him too well. And in the back is going to be Talonflame. Talonflame's Incinerates are doing a lot of damage to the Charizard, but the big thing to watch for is going to be the Dragon Breath damage, as Talonflame is taking quite a bit of damage as well. Charizard puts up the shield, Talonflame goes for the Flame Charge. They're really trying to ramp up. The Blastoise does have a Hydro Cannon banked as well. Charizard now going for the harder hitting Blast Burn. Blast Burn is shielded, and that's why they couldn't burn the final shield, because there's the combo play. Blastoise ruthlessly picking up the knockout. Back in comes Komo-o. Komo-o on 1 HP. That's going to be 1 Dragon Breath and a good game. Great lead in the next match. Venusaur into Gastrodon. Opponent safe switches into Empoleon, and this team is exceedingly soft to Empoleon. Venusaur stays in the matchup. Drill Peck does big damage, and Venusaur will return fire with the Frenzy Plant. But realistically, there's not an amazing switch in, especially after they shield, protecting the Empoleon health. Little did they know, but it's actually going to be an extremely wise decision, as this team is going to struggle against Empoleon greatly. Not only that, but with the desync of the switch timers, the opponent has the ability to shield and save the Empoleon for later, but they don't. That is incredibly fortunate, as Empoleon is difficult for this entire team to defeat. Back in comes Gastrodon. Gastrodon immediately met with the Air Cutter. Air Cutter lands, saving energy on the Charizard, and I love the decision to switch Blastoise into the face of a loaded Gastrodon, because Gastrodon really can't do much in this matchup. It's stuck going for Body Slams. Body Slam not going to do a lot neutrally. Another Body Slam connects. Shadow Blastoise has farmed this Gastrodon into a range where Hydra will almost knock out. Gastrodon barely hangs on, and look at the spice in the back. It's going to be Jirachi, Hydro Cannon will do quite a bit of damage, and immediately switching into the Charizard. Charizard has to shield up the Doom Desire. Charizard wanting to get to the back-to-back Blast Burns, and Charizard should be only 3 Dragon Breaths away. The Blast Burn is going to get shielded, but Charizard gets there. I stand corrected. It was 4 Dragon Breaths away, so it was a charge attack priority tie. Down goes Jirachi. Back in comes the Gastrodon. That's getting Dragon Breath down, and that's going to be a win. The Mudboy leads, Venusaur loves it, and this Swampert is not switching out. What could they possibly have in the back? Is there a Florges or something back there? They're staying in this matchup. There's a switch into Togekiss. Okay, so that is step 1. We figured out one of the Pokemon they have in the back. Venusaur already has the back-to-back Sludges. By staying in, they give Venusaur such an energy head start, where Venusaur can really be annoying. In comes the Blastoise. They farm up to a Dazzling Gleam. Even if it is the Gleam, Blastoise can hang on. There's the Gleam. Blastoise should be able to get that farm down, and Blastoise now gets to exit with a ton of residual energy. The opponent gonna think about it. They're gonna bring back in the Swampert, and Swampert gets knocked out. If this is their best answer, they're gonna be in trouble. Yeah, Swampert gets knocked out. In the back, it's an Alolan Ninetales, and I believe that was Charm as well. So they were just triple weak to the Venusaur. In comes the Venusaur. Venusaur getting to the Sludge. Can Alolan Ninetales hang on? I know it's an XL Alolan Ninetales, but that is a Shadow Sludge, taking the win, and the 2 Shield Flex as well. Hopping into the next match, picking up a profoundly negative lead. Oh, things going from bad to worse. Leading Venusaur and a Malamar. Malamar beats this entire team, and the Blastoise save switch going to be answered with the Belly Bolt. And this Belly Bolt does not shield up the first, and that is a pretty big problem. If Blastoise can't force a shield advantage in this mid game, then the Malamar for the opponent is just going to run away with the game. There's just no way to beat it, and the opponent gets very greedy. They could have thrown the Parabolic Charge, taken the knockout, but instead they try to farm down, and they pay dearly as they're forced to give up a shield. Now the Belly Bolt has been baited out, switch advantage, while it has been lost, shield advantage has been secured. And with that shield advantage, the hope is that Shadow Charizard will be able to sweep. Back in comes the Malamar, but Malamar already has the foul play. The foul play is shielded. Immediate firing of the Frenzy Plant, but Malamar, if it wants to, can hang on. So Malamar is going to no shield in the back. They have Togekiss, and this is going to be a very tricky game. The fact that the Dragon Breaths are double resisted means the Togekiss is basically taking 0 damage until a Blast Burn lands, and unfortunately this is a Psyshock Togekiss. They're not on Dazzling Gleam. Psyshock lands, Charizard is just too low, and it will resign the match. Hopping to the final match, leading Venusaur into a purified Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales. The Blastoise save switch is once again answered with Komo-o, and I don't think Komo-o is going to like this Ice Beam. Ice Beam is going to land, Komo-o farming up quite a bit of energy, and Komo-o is going to win Charge Attack priority. Will they go for the Clanging Scales? No, they go for the upper hand bait, and Blastoise does not mind absorbing an upper hand. Blastoise able to grab a shield, gonna farm up to the next Hydro Cannon, but the opponent is gonna be winning Charge Attack priority once again. That upper hand will take the knockout. In comes Charizard, but unfortunately Charizard just fails to farm down. I can't even see the health bar on that Komo-o, and unfortunately Komo-o did actually get damage registration error to get that move. Charizard will go for the Air Cutter Gyarados with an O-Shield. Charizard the switch into Venusaur, and Venusaur gets the catch. That is incredibly important, as now the Ninetales hits the field, but Ninetales is going to play to a CMP tie that they do not win. Sludge forces the shield, and now they absolutely have to undercharge. If they don't, their fate is sealed, and they do not go for the undercharge, or they undercharged, but it was not enough. In comes Charizard. Charizard gets to the Blast Burn. Blast Burn gets the one-hit knockout. In comes Gyarados. Gyarados has to farm down to win, and they simply cannot do so. Charizard getting to the Air Cutter, taking the knockout, and that is a good game. All in all, these are some exceedingly entertaining battles, so many thanks for the battle submission. I do really like to see the triple glass cannon teams from time to time. I know when it comes to climbing teams, triple glass cannon's typically not going to be the way to go, as if you don't have a Pokemon that can absorb a hit, you can oftentimes end up in a situation where really bulky teams can just out-bulk you by virtue of the fact that they're able to absorb multiple of your charge attacks, and you just simply don't have enough shields. But that's part of why I put the disclaimer at the start of the video. It's not a team for climbing, but it's an incredibly fun set of battles to sit back and enjoy, as a trainer really has to manage their energy extremely carefully, dodging in and out of matchups, making dramatic catches, trying to play to CMP ties, and get as much value out of these glassy Pokemon as humanly possible. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.